Junkers Ju-87 or Stuka is a German dive bomber and ground attack aircraft. Designed by Hermann Pohlmann, it first flew in 1935. The Ju-87 made its combat debut in 1937 with the Luftwaffe's Condor Legion during the Spanish Civil War of 1936 to 1939 and served the Axis in World War II from beginning to end, 1939 to 1945. The aircraft is easily recognizable by its inverted gull wings and fixed spatted undercarriage. Upon the leading edges of its faired main gear legs were mounted ram air sirens known as Jericho trumpets, which became a propaganda symbol of German air power and of the so-called Blitzkrieg victories of 1939 to 1942, as well as providing Stuka pilots with audible feedback as to speed. The Stuka's design included several innovations, including automatic pull-up dive brakes under both wings to ensure that the aircraft recovered from its attack dive even if the pilot blacked out from the high G-forces, or suffered from target fixation. The Ju-87 operated with considerable success in close air support and anti-shipping roles at the outbreak of World War II. It led air assaults in the invasion of Poland in September 1939. Stukas proved critical to the rapid conquest of Norway, the Netherlands, Belgium, and France in 1940. Though sturdy, accurate, and very effective against ground targets, the Stuka was, like many other dive bombers of the period, vulnerable to fighter aircraft. During the Battle of Britain of 1940 to 1941, its lack of maneuverability, speed, or defensive armament meant that it required a heavy fighter escort to operate effectively. After the Battle of Britain, the Luftwaffe deployed Stuka units in the Balkans campaign, the African and the Mediterranean theaters and in the early stages of the Eastern Front War, where it was used for general ground support, as an effective specialized anti-tank aircraft and in an anti-shipping role. Once the Luftwaffe lost air superiority, the Stuka became an easy target for enemy fighters, but it continued being produced until 1944 for lack of a better replacement. By 1945 ground attack versions of the Focke-Wulf FW-190 had largely replaced the Ju-87, but it remained in service until the end of the war in 1945. Germany built an estimated 6,000 Ju-87s of all versions between 1936 and August 1944. Oberst Hans Ulrich Rudel became the most successful Stuka pilot and the most highly decorated German pilot of the war. When the aircraft was reasonably close to the target, a light on the contact altimeter, an altimeter equipped with an electrical contact which triggers at a preset altitude, came on to indicate the bomb release point, usually at a minimum height of 450 meters, 1,480 feet. The pilot released the bomb and initiated the automatic pull-out mechanism by depressing a knob on the control column. An elongated U-shaped crutch located under the fuselage swung the bomb out of the way of the propeller, and the aircraft automatically began a 6 grams pull-out. Once the nose was above the horizon, dive brakes were retracted, the throttle was opened, and the propeller was set to climb. The pilot regained control and resumed normal flight. The coolant flaps had to be reopened quickly to prevent overheating. The automatic pull-out was not liked by all pilots. Helmut Malki later said that he and his unit disconnected the system because it allowed the enemy to predict the Ju-87's recovery pattern and height, making it easier for ground defenses to hit an aircraft. Physical stress on the crew was severe. Human beings subjected to more than 5 grams in a seated position will suffer vision impairment in the form of a gray veil known to Stuka pilots as seeing stars. They lose vision while remaining conscious, after 5 seconds, they black out. The Ju-87 pilots experienced the visual impairments most during pull-up from a dive. Extensive tests were carried out by the Junkers works at their Dessau plant. It was discovered that the highest load a pilot could endure was 8.5 grams for 3 seconds, when the aircraft was pushed to its limit by the centrifugal forces. At less than 4 grams, no visual problems or loss of consciousness were experienced. Above 6 grams, 50% of pilots suffered visual problems, or gray out. With 40%, vision vanished altogether from 7.5 grams upwards and blackout sometimes occurred. Despite this blindness, the pilot could maintain consciousness and was capable of bodily reactions. After more than 3 seconds, half the subjects passed out. The pilot would regain consciousness 2 or 3 seconds after the centrifugal forces had dropped below 3 grams and had lasted no longer than 3 seconds. In a crouched position, pilots could withstand 7.5 grams and were able to remain functional for a short duration. In this position, Junkers concluded that 2/3 of pilots could withstand 8 grams and perhaps 9 grams for 3 to 5 seconds without vision defects, which, under war conditions, was acceptable. During tests with the Ju-87A2, new technologies were tried out to reduce the effects of G. The pressurized cabin was of great importance during this research. Testing revealed that at high altitude, even 2 grams could cause death in an unpressurized cabin and without appropriate clothing. This new technology, along with special clothing and oxygen masks, was researched and tested. When the United States Army occupied the Junkers factory at Dessau on April 21, 1945, they were both impressed at and interested in the medical flight tests with the Ju-87. After evaluating Ju-87 operations on the Eastern Front, Göring ordered production limited to 200 per month in total. General der Schlachtflieger, General of Ground Attack, Ernst Kupper decided continued development would hardly bring any further tactical value. Adolf Galland, a fighter pilot with operational and combat experience in ground attack, said that abandoning development would be premature, but 150 machines per month would be sufficient. On July 28, 1943, strike and bomber production was to be scaled down, and fighter and bomber-destroyer production given priority. On August 3, 1943, Milch contradicted this and declared that this increase in fighter production would not affect production of the Ju-87, Ju-188, Ju-288 and Ju-290. This was an important consideration as the life expectancy of a Ju-87 had been reduced, since 1941, from 9.5 months to 5.5 months to just 100 operational flying hours. On 26 October, Kupfer reported that Ju-87 could no longer survive in operations and that the Focke-Wulf FW-190F should take its place. Milch finally agreed and ordered the minimal continuance of Ju-87 D3 and D5 production for a smooth transition period. In May 1944, production wound down. 78 Ju-87s were built in May and 69 rebuilt from damaged machines. In the next 6 months, 438 Ju-87Ds and Gs were added to the Ju-87 force as new or repaired aircraft. It is unknown whether any Ju-87s were built from parts unofficially after December 1944 and the end of production. Overall, 550 Ju-87S and B-2S were completed at the Junkers factory in Dessau. Production of the Ju-87 R&D variants was transferred to the Wasserflug company, which produced 5,930 of the 6,500 Ju-87s produced in total. During the course of the war, little damage was done to the WFG plant at Limwerder. Attacks throughout 1940-45 caused little lasting damage and succeeded only in damaging some Ju-87 airframes, in contrast to the Focke-Wulf plant in Bremen. At Berlin-Tempelhof, little delay or damage was caused to Ju-87 production, despite the heavy bombings and large-scale destruction inflicted on other targets. The WFG again went unscathed. The Junkers factory at Dessau was heavily attacked, but not until Ju-87 production had ceased. The Ju-87 repair facility at the Wels Aircraft Works was destroyed on May 30, 1944, and the site abandoned Ju-87 links. All Stuka units were moved to Germany's eastern border in preparation for the invasion of Poland. On the morning of August 15, 1939, during a mass formation dive bombing demonstration for higher-ranking commanders of the Luftwaffe at Nehammer training grounds near Sagan, 13 Ju-87s and 26's crew members were lost when they crashed into the ground almost simultaneously. The planes dived through clouds, expecting to release their practice bombs and pull out of the dive once below the cloud ceiling. They were unaware that the ceiling was too low and unexpected ground mist formed, leaving them no time to pull out of the dive. On September 1, 1939, the Wehrmacht invaded Poland, beginning World War II. Generalquartiermeister der Luftwaffe records indicate a total force of 366 Ju-87A and Bs were available for operations on August 31, 1939. The first Ju-87 operation was to destroy Polish demolition charges fixed to the rail bridges over the Vistula, that linked eastern Germany to the Danzig corridor in East Prussia as well as Polish Pomerania. To do this, Ju-87s were ordered to perform a low-level attack on the Polish Army garrison headquarters. 2. and 3/STG-1 targeted the cables along the embankment, the electricity plant and signal boxes at Derszów, now Ksu, Poland. At exactly 4:26 CET, a Kete, chain or flight of 3, of Ju-87s of 3./STG-1 led by Staffelkapitän Oberleutnant Bruno Dilly carried out the first bombing attack of the war. The Stukas attacked 11 minutes before the official German declaration of hostilities and hit the targets. The Ju-87s achieved complete success. The mission failed as the German army delayed their advance, allowing the Poles to carry out repairs and destroy all but one of the bridges before the Germans could reach them. The Ju-87 achieved the first air victory during World War II on the morning of September 1, 1939, when Rottenführer Lieutenant Frank Neubert of I./SDG-2 Immelmann shot down a Polish PZL-P.11C fighter while it was taking off from Balas airfield. Its pilot, Captain Mieczysław Medwecki, was killed. In air-to-air combat, Ju-87 formations were well protected by German fighter aircraft and losses were light against the tenacious, but short-lived opposition. The Ju-87 units had learned lessons from the Polish and Norwegian campaigns. The failures in Poland, and of the Stukas of I./SDG-1 to silence the Oscarsborg fort, ensured even more attention was paid to pinpoint bombing during the phony war period. This was to pay off in the Western campaign. When Fall Gelb, Case Yellow, began on May 10, 1940, the Stuka helped swiftly neutralize the fortress of Eben-Emael, Belgium. The headquarters of the commander responsible for ordering the destruction of the Belgian army held bridges along the Albert Canal was stationed in the village of Lanaken, 14 km/mi to the north. The Stuka demonstrated its accuracy when the small building was destroyed by 4 direct hits. As a result, only one of the 3 bridges was destroyed, allowing the German army to rapidly advance in the opening days of the Battle of Belgium. The Ju-87 proved to be a useful asset to Army Group B in the Low Countries. In pitched battles against French armoured forces at Honnat and Gembloux, Ju-87s effectively neutralized artillery and armour.